Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's lesson. This is lesson number 3. Okay, with lesson number 3, as usual, we're going to do a quick review of lesson 1 and lesson 2, and I'm just going to kind of help you um, by putting myself in your place and kind of giving you some outline of what I would do if I was watching this video. Um, Before we even go to the review, I can tell you right now what I would have done. The first thing that I would have done is I would have created me 22 flashcards, and I would have had pictures of all 22 letters. And I'll bring this image up right here. And I would have had basically one flashcard for each of these letters. And I would have had the ox as the original, and I would have had the two paths showing one going to Hebrew and one going through Greek, Latin, and English. And I would have took these 22 flashcards, and I would have written underneath the ox's head what it is a picture of. In other words, it's a picture of an ox's head. Then I would have either written on the back of the card or separately on the card what the meaning of the card is: strong, powerfully. And I would have started going through these flashcards until I could recognize and understand everything on this page. So I would have understand A, B, C, all the way to Z, Alpha to Omega, Aleph to Tav. I would have understood early, late, and middle representations of an ox head. That an ox head, these letters have names. They also have meanings. They also have sounds. Now, that's exactly what I would have done. Then I would have went after memorizing these things. I would have went to the first verse in the Bible, show you the first verse, and I would have got me an interlinear Bible, just like I'm showing you right here, because I would have no idea what Hebrew means, says. I wouldn't know anything. So what I would do is I would get an interlinear version where I have both English and Hebrew side by side. Now, I am not trusting the English and I am not trusting the Hebrew. I am just using it as a guide, because I'm going to show you in a minute how we can use this same process, the same guide, and find errors and fix them. Okay. So that we can make sure we understand correctly and perfect. Now, and so I would have went to the scripture and I would have learned what the patterns are. In other words, I would have learned that Bereshit is the pronunciation for these group of characters. In the beginning is the way they translate it into English. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Recording live is, you never know what's going to happen. Okay. So there is a problem, even if we done all of this. Even if we learn the Hebrew language, we learn the English language, we learn the translation, we learn everything. If you sit down with a Hebrew scholar, for example, it doesn't really matter who it is, but I use certain Hebrew scholars like Dr. Michael Brown or Nehemiah Gordon, for example, because they are, to me, the world's elites. There are other people like Tovia Singer. However, uh, Dr. Michael Brown and Nehemiah, they're well versed in understanding of Christianity, of Islam, of English, um, of how we may or may not get these particular translations that we have. And they are just icons out in the world and field. And be honest with you, I love watching them. I love their material. So they're my examples. They're who I use. Um, and Nehemiah has actually made a video series talking about the first verses in the Bible. The problem is he skips right over the first verses in the Bible and he makes a comment that basically no one knows, no one understands these first few verses. And if there's anybody out there who can understand it, then give him a call, type a comment, let him know, correct him. The problem is I've done that. Nehemiah hasn't accepted the phone call, hasn't accepted the email, hasn't accepted the video, hasn't accepted the correction, hasn't accepted a Bible study, isn't willing to sit down and talk. So, it is what it is. So Nehemiah, much like Dr. Michael Brown, is in a category of being enemies to what we're doing. They're roadblocks in our way, and I'm going to prove it in a moment. Now, even if you sat down with Nehemiah Gordon and Dr. Michael Brown and Tovia Singer, well, they're going to pretty much come up with exactly what you're looking at right here on this screen. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. V'haaretz hayata tohu v'bohu v'hoshek al pani teom v'ruah Elohim merehefet al pani ha-mayim. That's what they're all going to say. And then if they translate it, they're going to translate it as, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was without form and voidless and dark, and darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And then you'll ask them, what does that mean? And they'll all say the same thing. We have no idea. Are you kidding me? It's the first verse in the Bible, and we have no idea. Hold on one second. I'm interrupted live again. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. No, I'm not going to edit. I'm going to leave it in. So forgive me for the little pauses. All right. So having said that, let's do a quick review of our lessons and what it is that we're actually trying to do. I'm trying to get you as a viewer, as a believer, to understand that no matter where you go in this world and you ask for help, you're going to get what I just described to you. You're going to have to learn the Hebrew language. You'll have to learn the alphabet. You'll use flashcards. You'll learn the words. You'll learn everything. You'll put it together. You'll read it. You'll interpret it, and you'll get exactly what we already have. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth, blah, blah, blah. And then you'll ask every single person, what does it mean? And they'll say, we don't know. We don't have a clue. We don't understand it at all. No one does. So why would we want to go through all that long process and waste our time? We wouldn't. And we wouldn't read any book that we couldn't understand the first two verses. If we couldn't understand the first book, we wouldn't read any more books. If we couldn't understand the third chapter, we wouldn't read the fourth. If we couldn't understand the first chapter, we wouldn't read the second. If we couldn't understand the first two verses, we wouldn't read the third. It would be a waste of time. And there's no reason to think that you understand the third verse, the third chapter, the third book if you don't understand the first two verses. So, there's a problem here. What is the problem? I have identified the problem for those who believe. Okay? And this is the problem. If we look at lesson 3, these are the notes for lesson 3. It also reviews lesson 1 and 2 because all lesson 1 and 2 is really saying is we need to agree on lesson 3. And that is the original language used by God to communicate with Moses. The answer, it is a heavenly tongue. Now, how do I know that it's a heavenly tongue? Because even if it was spoke to you right now, straight to your face, you would not understand it. However, I will accept the answer that the language that God uses to communicate to man is simply called Hebrew. However, it is a heavenly tongue, and I'll prove it later, that if you are a Hebrew speaker, I don't care who you are, you will not understand God's words. It is a heavenly tongue, and it requires more than a Hebrew understanding to understand God's words. We'll get to that in the future. The original script that Moses used to record God's words, answer, it's hieroglyphics. It is a picture-based system of writing, also simply called Hebrew. Now notice pattern. We've got 2 Hebrew answers. Next, note. This is a note. By definition, the writing system used by Moses, hieroglyphics or picture-based system of writing, it is a script consisting of 22 pictures representing 22 consonants. It is used to visually represent a language. It contains no vowels. It is written in continuous form, unbroken, without spaces, and it is written from right to left. Again, it is also simply called Hebrew. There are no records currently exist of Moses' actual writings. We don't have his autographs. We don't have his first writings. We don't have them. Over time, the language has evolved. It has moved away from pictures to letters. The original writings can be understood simply by taking the scriptures we have and simply replacing the letters with the original pictures. So even though we don't have Moses' original words, we can replace the letters with the pictures and we can get pretty close. Now, even if you had a perfect copy of Moses' first writings, you still would not understand God's words. How do I know that? Because no one has ever understood them, including Moses himself, and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to prove it in these lessons. But no one understood correctly. If we understood correctly, we would not have the Bible we have today, full of errors and lies. We would have had a Bible that was perfect and correct. So somewhere along the way, people have crept in and have put their spin on God's words. And it's very easy to tell because the pictures are gone. God's words are gone. None of God's words exist in your current scriptures. All right. So what are we going to do? We're going to do the same thing that we did in our challenge. Remember our challenge? It's just a bunch of letters. But I showed you how easy it is to figure those letters out. The problem is you're going to come back to the exact same thing. Even I showed you a left to right example in English. And just a quick little decipher, and we're right back to Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and no one knows what in the world those verses mean. Nobody does. So something's missing. What's missing? Well, what's missing is, as I've already explained, okay, is if we look at the example of this, God's words are not on this page. There's not a single picture here. If we look at people trying to take the words and go back to the pictures, well, look at this row of Paleo Hebrew, which are half picture, half letter. Would you be able to understand anything? Do you gain any knowledge from it? No, you wouldn't understand anything. I'm going to bring up the example where they're just pictures. If we did it in just simple pictures, would you understand anything? No, nothing at all. Because these pictures represent a heavenly tongue, a heavenly language. It's represented visually to help you understand. But it still requires understanding, interpretation. Okay. So even if you learned everything there is to know, went back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, be in the same boat. You would not have any clue what this is. Here is my example. I'm going to bring it up. Let's see. And this is the English. I wrote my example. But this is straight from God's words. See, the letters are B-R-A-S-Y-T, and you see up here B-R-A. It's the same exact thing. So if we go and look at this picture, you can see B-R-A-S-Y-T, B-R-A-S-Y-T, written in pictures. We can verify that because we got the same B-R-A-S-Y-T. So, and there are plenty of people out there who can fact check what I'm saying and can disprove or prove this very quickly. This is simply Paleo Hebrew. It's the first verse in the Bible in Paleo Hebrew. Okay. This is the first verse in the Bible in English. If you do not use God's actual words, pictures, then there's no difference in these. They are equivalent. The English, the Latin, the Greek, the Aramaic, the Hebrew, they're all equivalent. They'll all do the same thing. Every one of them. Every one of them will lead you right to this scripture that we have. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim. In the beginning, God created heaven and the earth. Now, that means we'll all be lost. So, what I'm going to do in this lesson, because I don't want to be too long, and it's time to actually give you something so that you can kind of see what's going on and it motivates you to stay and continue. But, and I'm going to preach here in just a minute, but we need to understand something. This requires an action. It requires you to study. Now, answer this question. If God said to you, whoever you are, get a pen, get a piece of paper, and record my words and go share it with the world, would you not go get a pencil, a piece of paper, write his words down, and go share it with the world? Would you not do what he's asked you to do? Well, believe it or not, when God speaks, he's asking you to do some things. Now, we don't have in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, we don't have the record here where God says to Moses, record my words, write them down in a book. We don't have that. But before Moses started writing, that's exactly what happened. God said, Moses, write my words down in a book and give it to the whole world. Now, Moses did exactly what he was told to do. He wrote them down. He gave it to the world. Doesn't mean he understood it. It just means he followed the instructions, he wrote it down, he understood it. In other words, Moses had to do some work. He had to do something. And in order for you to understand God's words, you need to understand you have to do something. It's not static. It's not like reading Little Red Riding Hood and you understand the story. No, God's word is way different and you must do something. I like to say you need to live it out. You need to experience it. It involves a physical act. We must do something. So I'm going to give you an example. Now, I'm interrupted again live. I'll leave everything recording, but I'm going to give everybody a chance to look on the screen. As usual, you can always pause. You can look on the screen and you'll see that the scriptures grouped into words. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. And we have this word, ha-shamayim. And it is underneath, it is written as the heavens. Now, this word right here, there it is. I've highlighted it on the screen. You see it in English. I am going to just ask you a simple question. What is this word? What does it mean? How do you understand it? Why can people read these verses and not understand them? It doesn't make any sense. Okay. So take a moment, look at this word, heaven. The word is heaven. And I'm going to prove to you right now, I'm going to show you how to figure out what this word is. But before I show you, it's a challenge. The challenge is whoever you are. Dr. Michael Brown, what's your understanding of heaven? I already know it's a Christian understanding. What's the Muslim understanding of heaven? What is the Jews' understanding of heaven? It doesn't matter. No one has it correct. So here it is, right in front of you. What in the world is in the first verse of this Bible? And right here is a word that everyone on the face of this planet has heard. Heaven. What is it? I'm going to take a moment. I'll be right back. And then I'm going to interpret heaven for you so that you can see how powerful God's word is and what you must actually do to fully understand. Okay. So you can pause the video. You can go figure this out. You can go look at a bunch of videos, go do whatever you want. Go look at some dictionaries, go look at some commentaries, and you figure it out. All right. Now, I'm going to show you that I I need these pictures. I need these pictures to figure this out, and I need these understandings to figure this out. However, however, now that I know the pictures, I don't need the pictures when I look at this page. I know that this first letter is a house. I know that. I know that the third letter is an ox's head. I know that. Now, you wouldn't know that. No one else may know that. I know that. So, if we look at this word, heaven, let me just identify all of the parts here. The first character is a man who is basically in a praying or praising position. Next, we have a shin, which is simply two teeth. Next, we have a mem, which is simply water. Next is a yud, which is a hand and an arm, or say from your elbow down, it's a forearm wrist, and hand. Then we have another different type of mem, but they're the same character. They both mean water. Now, question. Dr. Michael Brown, and Dr. Michael Brown, this lesson, this is for you. This just to give you a taste, sir. You have told the world that if we look in these letters and we see anything other than sound, we are liars. We're making it up. We need to renounce our faith and we need to convert and we need to come, quit teaching, preaching. That's what you said. Now, I'm challenged. I've been challenged. I've challenged you for the longest time. I went on your videos, posted comments. I've asked your audience to ask you to debate. Like it's just, and I'm not really wanting debate. Just sit down and let's just figure this out. Debating doesn't solve anything. Communicating, talking, that's, we have some peaceful resolution. So if I include any type of image or meaning or understanding other than sound, then your challenge applies. You are going to accuse me of making things up, of lying, so on and so forth. Now, I need to be able to answer your challenge, but at the same time, I need people to learn. Okay. So I have already told people what these letters represent. Okay. A man praying, two teeth, water, a hand, water. Okay. Now, I have a question before we begin. How many of you out there think, just by looking, I have told you that Dr. Michael Brown has no clue what this word is. Neither does Nehemiah Gordon, neither does anyone else. Neither does Moses himself who wrote it. No one understands this word. If you go by the sound, the Hashemayim, the interpretation, the books and all of your sages and all the information that you have is going to lead you to what's right here on the page. That in the beginning, God created the heaven. And that's what every single person who's ever studied thinks, or else they would go and correct it. Well, I'm looking at this and I do not see heaven here. What do I see? I see a man praying. I see two teeth. I see water. I see a hand and I see some water. Now, the question is, if I was going to make something up, it means I have to make up something related to the picture. Now, this is how one of the ways that I'm challenging Dr. Michael Brown is because if this was a picture of a giraffe, then obviously this would have to have something to do with a giraffe. Does that make sense? If this was a picture of a tree, it would have to have something to do with a tree. So I didn't write this Bible. Moses wrote it. Moses wrote these characters down. The question is, Moses could have chose any type of picture he wanted to represent sound. If all it represents is sound, he didn't even need a picture. We could have just went straight to letters. But he did use pictures. And everyone is forced to use the same pictures. Just like the first letter in the Bible is a house. What are the odds that the first letter in the Bible, or the first word, has anything on God's green earth to do with a house? Well, good luck trying to make up something, because that's what you'd have to do to make this mean something that it isn't. You'd have to make it up. In other words, if this first letter was a giraffe, then we'd have to say, well, this has something to do with a giraffe. But that's not what we have. We have a house. Now, we didn't pick it. Moses picked it. God picked it. Question is, Does it have anything to do with a house? Yes or no? So let's go to the word that we're looking at. Does it have anything to do with water? Yes or no? It's a simple question. Does it have anything to do with a shin? Does it have anything to do with a man praising? Does it have anything to do? And we go look at these images. And these images are showing us what is commonly understood. Now, they're not all here, but these are kind of common. So here we have the little man. He's a man on his knees and he's praying. And it means to look, to reveal, to breathe. Now, this person doesn't actually know what this means. They just have words that relate to it. And they're doing the best they can to describe what this is. What is a man with his arms raised? What do you call that? What is he doing? Well, he's looking. He could be revealing, he's breathing. He could say worshiping, praying. There's lots of different words because this picture is worth 1,000 words. But every time we see it in the Bible, it's doing something. And a real good word for what it's doing is revealing. Reveal right here. So we go back. What are the odds that this has something to do with reveal? Well, we'll find out in a minute. Let's look at the next letter. The next letter is a shin. Right here it is. It looks kind of like, this is the 2-teeth version. Looks kind of like a W. And it is 2 front teeth. Now I can tell you that, remember, just like with the door in a wall, a door can be used to allow entry or it can be used to deny entry. The door can be used positively or negatively. So can every single picture. For the teeth, I can tell you that this person is only seeing one side of the teeth. The teeth can be seen as destroying, destructive, chewing, biting, for example. And it could be looked at in a negative way. But teeth can also be looked at in a positive way. It could be a tool used to consume food. It could be used as a weapon of defense. If you had to fight someone or an animal, you may use your teeth as a weapon. It can be looked at in a positive or negative way. Now, what does it have in common with, if you read this, these words, what it means to sharp, press, eat, to. Well, think about that. Picture 2 teeth, sharp teeth. Here they come, pressing down, like eating. And all of a sudden, 2. What does that mean? Well, it's like literally taking a cracker and you bite the cracker into 2 pieces. You literally use your teeth, and the teeth is used to do something. What do teeth do? Same thing with a man. A man what does a man praying do? Well, he looks, he breathes, he prays, he worships, he reveals. What does the teeth do? Everybody's seen those little candy bars that have like 12 cubes. I know you break the little cubes off and you break it down to one single cube and then you eat it. Well, you can also, instead of using your hand to break it, use your teeth. Use your teeth and you break off a cube. And that's exactly what the teeth are doing, is the teeth are separating things. They can separate things in a positive or a negative way. For example, you can destroy with teeth. You can chew something up, spit it out. That's a negative look. Or you can chew something up, swallow it. You can digest it as you're consuming food. It can be a positive or a negative. But what do they both have in common? They're separating food. All right. What is our next word? So we go back and look. We cannot change the picture that's used. This got something to do with revealing, something to do with chewing, something. Then we have water. Go look at water. What in the world does water mean? Here's water. And it literally means water. Water means water. It could also mean chaos, mighty. It could represent blood. It could represent a lot of things, but water's the main thing. It's just mainly water. And then the last one is also water. It's a different type of mem, but it's water. Now, what's this character here? This is a yud. We'll go look at a yud. And here it is. You see, it's like an elbow and a hand. And it means to work, to do something. This is representing working and action. I like to think of it as old school robot. When robots first came out and the little arms only had two fingers on them. And as soon as the robot started working, the little fingers would open and close, and it would bend its arm at the elbow, and it'd be like the old twiggy, 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 it's a little robot. And in other words, if we added motion to this, it'd become an icon. And it would look just like when when you click a link and it has a little hourglass come up or the little thing saying it's waiting, it's waiting, it's waiting, it's waiting. Well, we would have this, if we click this little arm would come up and little fingers would start closing, open, close, and it would bend at the elbow and bend and straighten out. And this arm would be doing what an arm does. It'd bend at the elbow and it would open and close the hand. And what does bending at the elbow, at the wrist, and opening and closing in hand, what in the world does that possibly mean? Well, it means work. It means to do something. It means it's just doing, it's an action, it's performing something. So now, I can't change these pictures. So the question is, what does it have to do with any of those things? Well, if we go down and we look at this, it says the first day. Okay. We go down, you see it says the second day. Well, I want you to notice something. If we start reading the second day, it says, and said God, let there be a firmament in the midst of this word right here. And I want everybody to pay very close attention to this word. And I'm going to bring up a new notepad because this is the example I am going to do right here on screen. Let's see if I can copy that. I'm going to paste it. Here I'm going to paste it. There it is. Can everybody see that? Now, it tells us what this word is. This word is water. So I can type up here, water. Everyone see that? Now, I can't make this up. The words are right here. Now, but there's a problem because if we go down a little further, we see another word right here. See this word right here? And it also means water. So what is the difference between this water and this water? The difference is this letter right here. And if you look at the translation, it changed it from water to the water. So that means, what did this little letter do? It added the word the. And now I can go back to my example and I can break this word apart now because this word doesn't mean water. It means the water. So now actually I should do it a different way because we are going from right to left. So from right to left, here's what we get. The water. Everybody see that? Now, if we go back up here to this word up here, I'm going to copy this word. I'm going to paste it. And by doing all of this, I'm showing you that you have to do something with God's word. You have to. And this is what I'm doing. And you can see what's happened here. I'm going to break this word down. As you can see, this word looks just like the other word above, but there's something else here. So I'm going to do the work for you. And I'm going to go up here and we're going to space this out. Okay. And now we should have a much clearer understanding. Hold on. Copy and paste doesn't want to cooperate. Sorry. Let me just copy it again, make it easier. Copy it. Paste it. So we can see a pattern here. You see the pattern is water, water, water. It's the same word, water, water, water. Now you see when water's by itself, it's just this word by itself. When you want to say the water, then you need to add this letter to the word. You get the water. Now we have this word right here that everyone is told it means heavens. It means the heavens. That's what's written there. But that is not the word that we see. This is the and water. It's the same word. All we have to do is identify this right here, and we will know exactly what this word is. Now, if you'll follow along, God actually tells us, he actually instructs us what to do to understand this word. Okay? And if we will just follow his instructions, then we can understand this word right here perfectly. Okay? Let's go and read his instructions, and then we'll know exactly what this is. So let's go read his instructions. Okay. God said, let there be this word right here, a firmament, a rakia, in the midst of this word right here. Now, if you follow the instructions correctly, God is telling you, he's telling you, God said, take this right here, take it, and put it in the middle of this right here. We know what this is. It's the water. Wrote it right here. The water. He said, you take this right here, and I'm going to take it, just like he told me to. I'm going to take it. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to put it in the middle of these two things. And I'm going to put it right there. There it is. And we know what it is. It is a firmament. We'll have to make some spaces here. All right. Does everybody see that? It says, and when you put this inside of this word, let it do something. Let it divide. And what does it divide? It said, let it divide between this word right here So we go up and you see we put it in the water and we put it in a way where it divides the water out. So you see the word the water? We put the firmament right in the middle so it divides the water. The firmament is right in the middle. Now, I can go ahead and stop right here and I can look at this pattern and I can tell you, I know exactly what this right here is. It's a firmament. We see it up there. It's a firmament. We know that. It's a rakia. We know that. We did exactly what God did, and He said, put it inside of there and let it separate the water. Now, there is a problem because it says let it divide between the water and water. So there's two waters here. What that means is simply I can go back up and it means I can give an alternate understanding for that letter now. That letter also represents water, just like the first word also represents water. And these are my two waters. I have two waters right here. And I separate these two waters with this word, just like He told me to do. Now, it says, and then made God this firmament. And what did He do with the firmament? He divided between this word right here. He literally divided this word. And here's the division. The water. He divided it. And He put the firmament right in the middle. And it separated the two waters. Now, there's another problem, though. It says it separates the waters that are under the firmament. There's the word. Here's the word. Right here. It's the same word. Under the firmament and above the firmament. What that means is we have written this incorrectly. The correct way to write this is this way. He's telling us the correct way to write it is this way. Like this. And take the firmament. So, and put it in the middle. And now we know what these words mean. This is the, but it can also be water. This is water. This is the firmament. And now we've done just what He said to do. We put the firmament inside of this word, the water, and we separated the water, divided it into the two parts, water underneath and water above. Okay? And it says, and so called God this right here, this firmament. He called it something. He called it this, something water. So we go back up and now we see. Doesn't matter which version you use. Okay. If you use the correct version, though, He's telling you that He called this, and we see the word something water. And I'm going to go and post it right here so you can see. And there it is. Whoops, that's not. the full word. Okay, there we go. And there it is. And so up here, we can call it either the, or we can call it water. Either one. They both work the same way. So if we look up here, we can see water, the water, something's in the middle. This is the something water. This is the something water. He said, call the firmament water. He said, call it, see right here, call this right here. So we look and we just changed the firmament into this right here. So now we have the correct understanding. We call the firmament water. We don't call it the firmament water. We call it the Shin water. So down here, we don't call it the firmament water. We call it the Shin water. This is a Shin. Now, if we go back up and look now at the first verse, it says, this is what God created right here. Here it is. Copy it, go back, and we look at this word that everybody's calling heavens. Let's look at it now. And you can see the three parts. 1, 2, 3. So this is not the heavens. God already told us what this is. This is the Shin waters. Now, that's about the best we can do, because that's exactly what he's telling us to call it, is the Shin waters. So in the beginning created God the Shin waters. That's what this is. Now we know what the Shin is. Listen to what the Shin is. It is the Rakia, the firmament. And it said that this right here has a job or function. So it's telling us what its job or function is. Let's listen again. All right. And God said, whoops, wrong day. And God said, let there be a firmament. Here it is. Put it in the middle of these two. Put it in the middle. There it is. Put the firmament right in the middle. Let it divide the water from the water. There we have it, our two waters. But we know it's above and below. It says, and then God made it. He made the firmament. He put it in between this word, and he separated this word perfectly. And he put that rakia, this whole word, right inside of there. And he said, but don't call it rakia. Don't call it rakia. He said, and let it divide. He said, look, God created a rakia. What do you do with the rakia? He tells you, let it divide. In other words, we can call this a divide. So if we go down here, we now know what this function is. And it is divide. And now we know, instead of calling it the shin, we know that it's divide. And you can see English still leaves us a little problem, because in English we say the divide waters, but divide is not correct. If we wanted to say it correctly, we would say divided, the divided waters. Now, here's the shin, and it tells us what the shin does. It divides. Now go back and look at our picture of our shin. Here it is. It's two teeth. And what do two teeth do? Well, imagine what two teeth would do if you applied it to this word right here. If you took this rakia, and instead of being a rakia, you let it be what it says, you call it here, and called this rakia shin waters, we know that the rakia becomes shin waters, or divided waters, because it's doing this operation of dividing. So why would we call a rakia that divides shin? Because that's what a shin does. And if you do what God said and you call it, instead of calling it a rakia, you call it a shin, then go back up here and replace rakia with shin. And it makes perfect sense. Let there be a shin in the midst of this word right here. And let it separate this word so you have water by itself. But we're also given a hint. This other letter is also a representation of water. We'll come back to that in a moment. So we divide these two waters with a shin. Now, what is a shin? A shin is teeth. It is just like two teeth biting down and separating this word in two. And you'll see that's exactly what happens, is we take this word, the water, and we take a firmament and put it in there like he said. But we don't call it a firmament. We call it a shin. We call it a shin. Why? Because it's dividing the water. So shin is equivalent to divide. So instead of calling it a shin, you can call it a divide. The better and more correct and accurate understanding is not divide, but separate. And the correct understanding would be the separated water. And it makes perfect sense. Now, you guys seen me do this live on air, right before your face, right before your eyes. Now, my challenge to Dr. Michael Brown is, Dr. Michael Brown, if you cannot see what I've done in a pure heart, in a pure light, and understand that what I've told you is actual truth, that it's right here in the Bible, and if you'd simply believe and do what God says, it makes perfect sense. That is why you cannot understand or make any sense out of the first verse in the Bible, because this word is an absolute lie. This does not say, in the beginning created God the heavens. It does not say that. We know that this is water. We know that for a fact. This word has something to do with water. That's what these symbols tell us it is. It's water. And it's not just water of any kind. It's a working water. It's a work. It's an action. It's water in action. we now know that this is revealing something. It's revealing. What is it revealing? It's revealing this shin. It's revealing. Now, go back and look at what we have for revealing right here. And it means also breath. Now, we're not going to get into it right now, but if I trace this, what does it have to do with water? Well, what do you call what God breathed into Adam? He breathed into Adam a breath. He breathed into Adam. If this is a breath, then this is a life. Then this is a spirit. What does God call his spirit? In the New Testament, when Yeshua says, take and eat, it is meat, but it is also drink. It is blood, but it is also water. Take and drink of this water. A water that you drink of, you'll never thirst again. It is his spirit. It is his breath. It is life. It is also light. There are many words to describe this. But the only reason I'm telling you this now is just simply so you can understand the relationship it has to water. That is what breath is. It's water in a gas form. It's simply water. It's spirit, it's life, it's water. Now, go back and look at the example one last time. In the beginning created God a revealing, a revelation, a revealing of a shin, a shin, a separation of water. In the beginning, God created the separated water. It makes perfect sense. Now, I'm going to have to leave it there because I'm being interrupted again. We've got some things we need to do. We'll come back and we'll pick up here because there is more to this word heaven. We haven't really been told what this is. We've only been told that this is the separated water. And what does this have to do with the word the? Because the reveals, just like opening up a curtain and saying, or, when wrestlers come out on stage and you say, introducing the one and only. In this corner, we got the king of the South. And in this corner, the king of the North. That's what the does. The is like a blowing a horn, blowing a trumpet. It's like in the beginning, God created separated waters. And guess what? The only way for you to know that is to know the pictures. That is the only way you can figure this out, is to know that it has something to do with the pictures. And every single word in this Bible has something to do with those pictures. And we're going to go through every single word in this verse. And I'm going to show you that surely, indeed, every single word has something to do with those pictures. Well, that's it for this video. I'll pop this up last so you can see it one last time. And I'll see you guys in the next video.